Sounds app, on your smart speaker,
play BBC Radio Tees,
and on your radio.
The sound of where we live is BBC Radio Tees.
It's 12 o'clock with your news. I'm Ian Wood. Storm Eowyn is ramping up its effects on our region. An amber warning for high winds is in place right across the north until 9 o'clock this evening, meaning the risk of damage to property and flying debris. Power cuts continue to spread across the region. More than 400 addresses are now without electricity, with towns to the west of Peterlee particularly badly hit. Roads are subject to trees and debris blocking them partly or entirely. Early decisions were taken to close the A19T's flyover to high-sided vehicles and to close the A66 Cross Pennine route entirely between Bowes and Brough. Dee Murray from National Highways says safety is always a priority.
Once lorries start to turn over and it gets to that point, it's too late to do something. We can see the winds are way above the safety limit for that road, so it's a fairly easy decision. It's quite a big disruption. So we can make that decision early on and get that message out. At least people are warned about what's going on and have a chance to redirect their journey.
All our airports, Teesside, Newcastle and Leeds Bradford, are advising passengers to check before travel. They have flights subject to possible disruption. Appointments are all still running up both North Tees and Hartlepool and South Tees Hospital NHS Foundation trusts. Patients should attend unless told otherwise and are asked to travel safely. Well, Cecily Fernley from Goathland in North Yorkshire was woken in the night when the winds assailed the moorland farmhouse where she lives and has her restaurant. Well, past experience has made her wary of how relatively remote rural communities can be vulnerable in these conditions.
In the event of a power outage, there's no mobile phone signal. You have your landline, but BT have been upgrading everybody's landline through their broadband. So if they completely roll this out to everybody without proper backup, in the event of power cuts, we have no way of calling the emergency services, checking on vulnerable people.
Our reporter Charlie Burley says the advice generally is clear.
If you can stay indoors today, then it's probably advisable to do so. This evening the winds should have eased, with things generally looking a bit better going into Saturday as the storm sort of weakens and clears, but it is clearing to the northeast, so it is going to remain a pretty breezy day, and there possibly will be some stronger winds tomorrow as well.
Well, train services are severely curtailed here, and there are no trains to Scotland, where a red weather warning, meaning a possible danger to life, is in force. The same warning also covers the whole island of Ireland and also the Isle of Man. More than 700,000 properties have been cut off in the Republic of Ireland. Nearly 100,000 have lost power in Northern Ireland. Liz Bentley is the head of the Royal Meteorological Society.
One of the strongest storms we've seen for years. I mean, it's been called the storm of the century in the Republic of Ireland, and we've already seen wind gusts of 114 miles per hour on the west coast of Ireland, so that will break their all-time wind gust record. We could see in excess of 100 miles per hour across Northern Ireland and Scotland as well. That is why we have the red warnings in place. It really does mean danger to life.
In other news, the Labour MP for Southport, Patrick Hurley, has urged the government to consider a harsher sentence for the child killer Axel Rudikubana. The 18-year-old was jailed for at least 52 years yesterday for the murder of 3 young girls at a dance class last year. He couldn't be given a whole life sentence because he was 17 when he carried out the attack. The Attorney General says the sentence will be reviewed. On now to sport and tennis. Yannick Sinner has made it to the final of the Australian Open for the second year in a row. The Italian beat Ben Shelton of the USA in straight set in the semi-final. He'll take on Germany's Alexander Zverev, who dashed Novak Djokovic's hope of an 11th Australian Open singles title. The Serbian had to withdraw after just one set with a leg injury. And the weather, gales with damaging wind gusts, sunny spells and patchy cloud for the rest of the day. Maximum temperature 8 degrees. For an update anytime, ask your smart speaker to play BBC News for Radio Tees.
Thank you very much, Ian. And right, traffic and travel information across Teesside, County Durham and North Yorkshire. As you heard with Ian in the news there, Storm Eowyn wreaking havoc across our patch. Buses seem to be doing okay at the moment. Not a lot of problem with the buses. Stagecoach and Arriva giving us information. Arriva saying any double-decker routes, they will take the double-decker and put singles on there. We'll keep an eye on that. Our local hospitals, North and South Tees hospitals, appointments are running to normal. You should attend your appointment unless the hospital tell you otherwise for travel safety reasons. Northern Power Grid, this is so important. If you have a power cut and you want to know when it's going to come back on, they do have an online service. It's northernpowergrid.com. Now, you may be going, well, if I've got no power, how am I going to get on there? You can phone them. There's a customer helpline there, and it's 105. You phone them. You can find the information there. But if you are priority, if you've got children, you're disabled, or you think that it is an emergency for you, they have a dedicated Power Grid care team line, which is 0800 169 2996. Now, as Ian said, the 66 is closed from Brough and Bowes. A19, Tees flyover, is closed to high-sided vehicles. Bits and bobs coming in Darton back lane at Winnie Hill. There's a barn roof coming off. I've not heard any information on that of late. If you can update me on that. Durham Road, there was a fallen tree partially blocking the Darton Lane and Hardwick Road in Stockton. Diane was telling us about the overturned lorry on the A689 near Wynyard heading towards the 19. Sue told us about the tree that had come down between Piercebridge and Scott's Corner, blocking the road. That I don't know if that's been cleared as yet. Please help me on that if you can. James, fallen tree between the Bluebell pub and Yarm, and the turn off at Eagles Cliff on Yarm Road. Only and blocked. Let us know on that. A689 the other way at Bish Balkland, tree down, blocking the road there. There's also problems between Binchester and Low Willington. Bin day, if it's bin day today, get your bin in because it's causing havoc around North Ormsby. There's bins flying everywhere, hitting cars, so just be aware of that. Tony the wagon driver, A1 between the A68 and the 688 and the 66 in Darlington. That's going southbound. There's one lane blocked on there. There's a fallen tree, Yarm Road and Eagles Cliff, covering the single carriageway between Yarm to Stockton near Butts Lane Junction. These coming in as well. The council are currently cutting a tree away and reopening the A135, says Rich in the yellow van. Look, we'll keep getting an update on what's happening on the rails at the moment because there's one between north of Newcastle. That came into effect at 8:30 this morning, and you're strongly advised not to travel by any train service north of York. We're going to get an update on that on BBC Radio Tees in the next 10-15 minutes. You can update us, you can help us out. Our number 08000 85 95 95. Erasure and a little respect on BBC Radio Tees. Just to make you aware, if you are in central Middlesbrough, it's Gaz with you on BBC Radio Tees, by the way. There's a two-car crash outside the Aldi Crossroads at the Newport interchange, right here in central Middlesbrough, near where the college is, where the Aldi is. So just be aware of that. Two-car crash outside the Aldi at the crossroads there at the Newport interchange. Lots of problems going down. Fallen tree, Yarm and Eagles Cliff, single carriageway on Yarm to Stockton direction, Butts Lane. Lots of issues with Storm Eowyn, and we're here at BBC Radio Tees just to keep you updated as much as we can. And somebody who's got a lot of
It was a really good insight as to what the weather's going to do. We assess it very carefully. We don't take the closure of lines or the suspension of services lightly at all. We don't want to do that. We want to run trains. But this storm really is being quite severe. And as a result, we did take the decision to close some routes. So the East Coast Main Line is closed between Newcastle and Scotland for the duration of today. Our intent is to reopen that for business as usual tomorrow. For the rest of the North East, most routes do have a train service running, but it's a skeleton service. It's obviously subject to disruption, and our strongest possible advice to customers is please do not travel today if you can possibly avoid it. But our intent is absolutely to be business as usual from tomorrow morning.
Are you monitoring as we speak right now on an hour-to-hour basis to what the safety issues are?
Absolutely. So our control centre manages the response to all of our incidents. We have an army of staff out on the ground dealing with all the large number of obstructions, fallen trees, all sorts of other issues so far today, monitoring those closely. And then the line is certain that there's not going to be any further problems once the weather has passed. And as I say, our intention is for all of our routes to be open for business tomorrow morning.
What's your biggest challenge?
It's stating the obvious, really. It's the wind. It is line-side obstructions. It's anything from tents to trees and everything in between. We do get all sorts of problems with our line-side neighbours' property that can often end up